The storm wasn't supposed to be this bad. That's what the captain said before the radio crackled into silence and the engine coughed its final breath. What was meant to be a simple island-hopping tour turned into chaos within minutes. Waves slammed against the boat like fists, the sky split open with thunder, and before I could process what was happening, we were being forced toward a stretch of land that wasn't on any brochure. When we finally hit the shore, the boat was ruined beyond repair. That was how we became trapped on an island. Just me and her. At first, we barely spoke. We were strangers thrown together by accident, shock, and fear. She was soaked from head to toe, hair plastered to her face, eyes sharp and alert as she scanned the unfamiliar jungle ahead. I noticed her confidence immediately, not loud or arrogant, but steady, like someone used to standing her ground. "I'm Daniel," I said, mostly to break the silence. She looked at me for a moment, measuring me, then nodded. "Lena." That was it. No small talk, no panic, just two names exchanged on a beach that felt suddenly very far from the rest of the world. We spent the first day in survival mode, finding fresh water, searching for anything that washed up from the wreck, building a basic shelter before nightfall. The island was beautiful in a wild, untouched way, thick green trees, white sand, and a strange quiet that felt both peaceful and dangerous. As the sun began to set, reality finally sank in. No phones, no signal, no idea when, or if, anyone would come looking. That night, the sounds of the jungle wrapped around us. Insects buzzed, something howled in the distance, and the fire we managed to build flickered like it was fighting the darkness itself. Lena sat across from me, knees pulled to her chest, staring into the flames. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but her voice betrayed her calm. "I don't really do." Helpless. "Me neither," I said. "Guess we'll have to fake it until we don't have to anymore." That earned a small smile. Days passed, measured by sunlight and hunger instead of clocks. We learned the island together, where the water ran clean, which fruits were safe, where the tides pulled strongest. Somewhere between survival and routine, walls began to fall. Lena told me pieces of her life in fragments. She worked in a world where she constantly had to prove herself. Strong, unshakable, always in control. Weakness, she said, was something she never allowed herself to show. I told her about my own life, how I'd spent years doing what was expected of me, not what I wanted. How I'd learned to keep things inside because it was easier than explaining them. Out there, stripped of everything familiar, honesty came easier. One afternoon, we climbed a rocky rise overlooking the ocean. The water stretched endlessly in every direction, glittering under the sun like it was mocking us. Lena stood at the edge, wine tugging at her hair. "Do you think anyone's looking for us?" she asked quietly. "I hope so," I said. "But I also think, whatever happens, we'll get through it." She turned to look at me then, really look at me. "You say that like you believe it." "I do." Something shifted in her expression, like a crack forming in armor that had been worn for too long. That night, a storm rolled in again. Rain poured through the leaves, and the wind tore at our shelter. At one point, a fallen branch came down dangerously close, forcing us to move deeper under cover. We huddled close, soaked, cold, and exhausted. Lena's hands were shaking. Without thinking, I wrapped my arm around her, offering warmth more than anything else. She hesitated only a second before leaning into me. Her head rested against my chest, and I could feel her breathing slowly. "Match mine. I hate this," she whispered. "I know. I hate not knowing, not being in charge." I didn't say anything right away. I just stayed there, steady, letting her feel that she wasn't alone. Eventually, her grip on my shirt tightened. "I'm tired of being strong all the time," she said. That was the moment everything changed. From then on, we were closer. Not just physically, but emotionally. We moved together without thinking, sharing tasks, glances, quiet jokes. Laughter came easier, even when food was scarce and hope felt thin. One evening, after the sky turned orange and purple, we sat by the fire again. Lena watched the flames dance, her face soft in the glow. "Back home," she said, "people see me as untouchable. Like I don't need anyone. And here?" I asked. "Here," she said slowly, "I don't have to be that person." She turned toward me, eyes searching. You don't see me like that, do you? I see you, I said. That's all. Silence settled between us, heavy and charged. The island seemed to hold its breath. Then she spoke the words that would stay with me forever. I'm just a woman, she said quietly, almost like a confession. And you're what I want. Time froze. There was no dramatic music. No lightning. Just the crackle of fire and the sound of the ocean behind us. Her honesty hit harder than any storm ever could. I searched her face, making sure this wasn't fear or loneliness talking. But what I saw there was clarity. Choice. Lena, I said, I don't want to be something you reach for because you're trapped. She shook her head. This isn't about being trapped. It's about being seen, and feeling safe enough to want someone. That was all I needed to hear. I reached for her hand, slow enough for her to pull away if she wanted to. She didn't. Instead, her fingers curled around mine, warm and sure. The kiss that followed wasn't rushed or desperate. It was quiet, deep, like two people finally allowing themselves something real. From that night on, the island felt different. Not easier, but warmer. We still struggled, still waited for rescue that didn't come right away. But now, there was comfort in shared mornings and whispered conversations under the stars. There was strength in knowing we weren't facing the unknown alone. Weeks later, when a rescue helicopter finally appeared on the horizon, we stood together on the shore, waving like our lives depended on it. Because they did. As the island grew smaller beneath us, Lena squeezed my hand. Funny, she said, I spent my whole life thinking independence meant never needing anyone. And now, I asked, and now I know, she said softly, that choosing someone doesn't make you weak. I smiled, looking at her, realizing that sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is admit what they want. And sometimes, it takes being lost on an island to finally find it. The first morning on the island arrived quietly, almost deceptively peaceful. Sunlight filtered through the palm leaves, painting soft patterns on the sand. For a brief moment, if I ignored the ache in my muscles and the salty dryness in my throat, it almost felt like a vacation. Then reality came rushing back. The wrecked boat, the endless ocean, and the woman sleeping a few feet away from me. Lena stirred before I did anything. She sat up quickly, alert, like she'd trained herself never to be vulnerable for too long. Her eyes met mine, and for a second, we just stared at each other, both silently confirming the same truth. We were still here. Okay, she said, brushing sand from her arms. Day 1. We need a plan. That was Lena. Direct, focused, refusing to let fear take control. I admired that immediately. We took inventory of what little we had salvaged from the wreck. The night before, a half-broken backpack, a water bottle, a pocketknife, some soaked snacks that were barely edible, and a torn piece of tarp. Not much, but enough to keep hope alive. I'll look for fresh water, I said. You check the shoreline again.